Welcome to the Rich Report, a podcast with news and information on high-performance computing. Today, my guests are from the InfiniBand Trade Association. We have Rupert Dance and Bill Lee. Welcome to the show today, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on. I guess, Bill, we should start with you. What I thought we'd do is just go through the slides and then do a QA and kind of get caught up on IBTA and what happened at SC13.
Okay, great, thanks. So I'm representing both the InfiniBand Trade Association and the OpenFabrics Alliance. I'll give you a quick update on what's going on with the organizations and, as you said, what's happened at supercomputing. So on the second slide, InfiniBand Trade Association, just to give people a quick introduction, we are a member organization dedicated to developing, maintaining, and furthering the InfiniBand specification. The architecture covers RDMA software architecture. It covers the InfiniBand physical layer. Today we have members shipping up to 56 gigabits per second per server port. And it also covers RDMA over converged Ethernet. And we're responsible for the interoperability, compliance testing, and marketing of RDMA technology throughout the industry. On the next slide is an introduction to the OpenFabrics Alliance. For your listeners who aren't familiar with this organization, we are the home of the OpenFabrics software. This is the middleware between the adapter products and applications that enable RDMA performance for those applications. We are software supported on Linux distributions as well as Microsoft Windows Server operating systems. And we also promote the benefits of RDMA application acceleration, and that's what both these organizations were doing at supercomputing. On slide 4 outlines our focus areas in the OpenFabrics Alliance. We are an organization that tries to help developers with the open source software, and so we have workshops and other things, and we also have outreach to users. And I'd like to let Rupert talk a little bit more about both of these areas.
Thanks, Bill. So we've been doing a number of things for the last 5 or 10 years. We've had a developers workshop where we invite all of the people that have been working on the OpenFabrics software to get together and exchange ideas and look at what's new and happening in the world of RDMA. But for the last 2 events, we've also included a user conference where we invite all of the people that are actually in the real world doing development and supporting these systems. So typically these are system admin folks, and they bring a different set of needs and expertise. And the idea is to develop that community to help others that are new to RDMA. And so we have created a new list for users, which is being very well received. And basically it's users helping users. And sometimes the knowledge that a developer has is very different from what an end user needs when he's dealing with new fabrics and these HPC and EDC computer systems. So Bill, I'll turn it back over to you.
Great, thanks Rupert. Slide 5 shows that the IBTA is a growing organization. We had 2 significant additions to our member list. Microsoft and Emulex both joined the IBTA, not just as participating members, but as steering committee members. Both of these organizations provide an enterprise perspective for RDMA and will be significant contributors to the direction of the IBTA, the standards body, as well as the marketing arm. You can see at the bottom of the slide the complete list of steering committee members, a very strong group of companies all dedicated to the advancement of RDMA in networks. On slide 6, the IBTA is also expanding the standards body or standards work. The steering committee recently approved work on extending functionality in a portion of the spec known as ROCKY, remote DMA over converged Ethernet. The data centers, emerging data centers, are expanding their use of Ethernet and routing, layer 3 routing, IP routing, within their fabric. Legacy data centers usually had a layer 2 fabric throughout the data center. Today's emerging data centers are using layer 2 within a rack, but layer 3 routing between racks. These emerging data centers also want to utilize RDMA and have asked for layer 3 routing capability to do so, and so the IBTA is going to be working on that. They'll also be looking at further enhancements for scalability within the data center. So our technical working groups have started looking into these enhancements. The OpenFabric community is also expanding its capabilities, and on slide 7, you can see the newest work group added to the OpenFabric Alliance. This is called the OpenFramework work group. Their charter is to develop, test, and distribute both an extensible open source framework that will help guide developers in creating new APIs, as well as a open source interface aligned with upper layer protocols and applications that need additional services from their fabric. The reasoning behind this new group is that there are new applications coming on that could use RDMA, but need additional services than what is currently being provided. The OpenFramework wants a pathway to add these capabilities very quickly. Ultimate objectives within this group and within the OpenFabric Alliance is to maximize performance for more classes of services, as well as maximizing return on investment for the entire data center spend by the IT managers.
Bill, this is Rupert. I'd like to add just a couple of thoughts on that. One of the issues has been that traditionally what has happened is that the providers, being the equipment providers, and OpenFabrics being the software provider, have more or less provided the foundation at the bottom and asked all of the end users that are using this hardware to fit their applications into the framework that's been provided from a hardware or software point of view. So this group is somewhat unique in that we're reversing that process, and we're going out into industry and more or less asking the industry, what do you need? What problems are you looking to solve? What in RDMA services are we missing that would help you improve these applications? So it's a top-down design that we're doing, and that's why we have this concept of application-centric I/O, meaning that we have always had this verbs interface to the RDMA layers below us, but now we're saying perhaps we need multiple interfaces, more than one interface. So some people have called it verbs 2, but it's more than verbs 2 because we might see 5, 10, 15 different interfaces, and we're trying to build a framework that allows that to grow and expand as we need and as the application developers determine that need. And lastly, I would say that this is an open group. It's open to everybody. You don't even have to be a member of the OpenFabrics Alliance, although we would certainly appreciate that. But we've had very good participation. We've got 30-some-odd people that are in this group from all over the world that are reviewing the capabilities that are built into RDMA and into the OpenFabric software and how they would like to see that extended. And part of our goal is to help us make this move towards exascale computing, which may need lighter weight, faster, more efficient software in addition to faster and low-powered hardware. So it's an exciting group, and we'd invite everybody to join in with this discussion. Back to you, Bill.
Great, thanks. Slide 8. Both organizations are dedicated to the advancement of RDMA. We see that this need is growing in both HPC and data centers. RDMA is the essential. What is essential for scientific enterprise and cloud computing fabrics are I/O, efficient computing, and with that you get I/O OS bypassing. You need scalable storage. You need data not only localized within the data center, but across geographies. You get this with RDMA. You get the low latency and low CPU overhead with the bypasses. You get high network utilization because you have less bottlenecks within the server and the storage, efficient data transfers. It supports many different protocols with more protocols to come, and it's supported on all the major operating systems. So we believe that RDMA is what is required for the best performance in the data center. Specifically, OpenFabrics software, RDMA, and Ethernet, you can deploy this now with iWarp and Rocky. Both are delivering bandwidths now 40 gigabits per second, with many vendors delivering 40 gigabit Ethernet, different latencies depending on the different protocols being used. They're accelerating applications such as Hadoop, which is used for big data, Memcached, databases, low latency messaging, virtualization, etc. We've got several storage solutions, including Open Storage and Microsoft SMB3. And we also have direct connections to WAN and Internet links. We're seeing benefits in the financial community, databases, Web 2.0, and deployments in the Fortune 100 companies. Slide 10 shows the benefits of OFS RDMA in InfiniBand. In this instance, you do get the highest performance, highest bandwidth, lowest latency, best CPU utilization for your applications. It's the interconnect of choice for the world's fastest supercomputers and in commercial HPC. It enables the highest efficiencies in supercomputing with applications in biomedical, oil and gas, web, enterprise, and again in the Fortune 100 companies. I mentioned high efficiencies in the top 500. The next slide shows this. The top 500 released its latest report in November, concurrent with the show. And what we found there was that 48% of the world's most powerful petaflop-capable systems are being powered by InfiniBand. It has the highest systems utilization in the top 500. And this chart here shows that all of the blue squares are InfiniBand clusters. Most efficient system on the top 500 was an InfiniBand-powered system at 96% efficiencies. Average efficiencies for InfiniBand are running about 88%. The yellow dots are 10 gigabit Ethernet clusters. The orange diamonds are gigabit Ethernet. You can see running Ethernet delivers less efficient systems, although still capable of top 500. The InfiniBand also powers 80% of the accelerator-based systems. These are the GPU systems that many of your listeners have heard about. Slide 12 shows the InfiniBand roadmap. Today, our members are in full production with FDR. EDR is on the horizon. We expect deployments in the 2014 timeframe. And HDR now is expected to be deployed in the 2017 timeframe. HDR being 200 gigabits per second at the server port. I want to close with some activities at supercomputing this year on slide 13. The IBTA and the OFA jointly sponsored a booth. We had videos of our members talking about what was going on in the show floor, as well as information about what was going on in our members' booths. That was correlated with a map that we had of the show, so that anybody coming by our booth, finding something interesting in one of our members' booths, we were able to point them pretty quickly to get there. We also had a small demonstration of what it takes to evaluate high-speed cables in the InfiniBand specification. And Rupert, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Certainly. So this was a demonstration involving two of our test equipment vendors, Anritsu and Tektronix, and they provided the equipment necessary to do 100 gig EDR testing of active cables, meaning either copper or fiber-based active cables. So what we demonstrated, we used the Anritsu generators to generate a perfect signal according to the IBTA EDR spec. Then we passed that signal through the active cable, and we looked at the output using the Tektronix sampling scope. So, and you could see that naturally there was some loss of signal, but our compliant cables were able to pass all of the output specs of the IBTA spec. So drew a lot of attention. It was approximately $1 million worth of test equipment, so it's at the leading edge of all of the testing technologies, whether that be in the Ethernet or the InfiniBand world, and that's why it was of interest to many of our attendees at SC13. Thanks, Bill.
Sure, thank you. We also sponsored some panels, some Birds of a Feather sessions, and a poster. These were focused on the new activity in the OFA, the OpenFramework working group. You see a picture here of Paul Grun talking to an audience about the reasoning behind the work group and what the plans were. The last photo is the poster that describes in detail what we were planning on doing. A lot of interest there. Got some more people wanting to know when the meetings were happening and planning to call in and contribute. And with that, I'd like to pass it back to Rich.
Well, hey, thanks for that, Bill and Rupert. Let's do the most recent piece first, because I'm curious about copper. As this InfiniBand roadmap moves out, I mean, I would have thought it would all be going optical. Does copper have a future in these interconnects?
Well, I'll take that, if I may, just because we're involved so much in the testing. The IBTA has a complete compliance and interoperability testing program. And copper, particularly at EDR speeds, has a very important role. At this point, we're seeing the sweet spot being somewhere around 3 meters with the max, it looks like, at about 5 meters. And that length is perfectly capable of solving in-rack solutions. So where we see the optical coming into play is obviously when we go between racks or campus-based. We can easily do 100 meters and even up to 300 meters for active. And at this point, honestly, it's a little early to speak about HDR, but certainly for EDR, these products are being well tested and are perfectly capable of handling those speeds.
Very interesting. So Rupert, a question for you on RDMA and education, which I know is a forte of your efforts. The HPC Advisory Council just had this competition in China, as you know, RDMA programming competition, to address the need for, they need more people programming or with those capabilities for RDMA. What are your organizations doing to help foster that as well?
Well, great. Thanks for the lead into that. So the OFA, about 3 years ago, sponsored an effort to develop training materials, and we currently have 2 different courses available. One of them is programming directly to the RDMA verbs, and it covers not all of our transports. It covers IWARP, Rocky, and InfiniBand, and it's a very detailed course that has 30 code examples along with approximately 500 slides. And it's taught by myself and Dr. Robert Russell from the University of New Hampshire, who has about 30 years in on teaching operating systems and networking. And we offer that class either at the University of New Hampshire, which is about an hour north of Boston, or we will travel to your company site to deliver the materials. Just quickly, the other program that we have that was developed after the programming is that we have a Fabric Admin course that teaches all about how to administer an InfiniBand fabric, which is quite different, as you know, from an Ethernet fabric in as much as it's basically a software-defined network. We have an open subnet manager that goes out and potentially can configure anywhere from 100 nodes to 40,000 nodes. And so we use this course it's a hands-on course where people get access to the hardware, as well as explaining all of the system admin requirements. And again, we have clusters, a small computer cluster that we ship to on-site, and we can do that training at a company location or, again, using the OpenFabrics cluster at the University of New Hampshire.
So you've got those efforts going on, and then, you know, it seems to me, in terms of fostering this and getting ubiquity out there, the inclusion of Microsoft on your board level, it seems to me to be just a huge step for RDMA. I don't want you guys to speak for them, but what's their angle? Are they trying to make their Azure go faster, or what do you think?
Well, Microsoft has been interested in RDMA for a while, and we can't speak for them, but we can see what their actions are. They added RDMA inbox to their Windows Server operating system. They've incorporated in SMB3, and so it's obvious that they see a need for RDMA moving forward, and now feel that they can contribute to the direction of where these organizations are going.
And I believe, Bill, if I'm not mistaken, their Bing search engine, which has been very successful, is based on RDMA technology, is it not?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so that's certainly critical to their strategy going forward. So kind of a wrap-up question here, guys. You normally have an event, a user group and a developers workshop in the springtime. Are those going to happen again this year in Monterey?
Yes, they will. Thanks for pointing that out. We are in the process of defining the agenda for our developers workshop. It is scheduled to start Sunday, March 30th in Monterey. And we also have another group that is working on a Users Day conference where the users get together and talk about challenges and potential solutions for what they're seeing in their networks. And that looks to start on Wednesday, April 2nd, right after the developers conference, also in Monterey.
And Rich, if I may, one other plug is that also in April and October of every year, the IBTA sponsors a very thorough compliance and interoperability test event that tests all of the InfiniBand and Rocky products. And the week after that, the OpenFabrics Alliance has an interoperability event where we test the OpenFabrics software and all of the components that are manufactured by the members of the OFA. So we get a very good mix of both compliance and interoperability testing, which ensures good deployment when people buy these RDMA-based products.
Right. So with that plug fest, they know that this stuff has been certified to work together, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Rupert and Bill, I just found this very interesting, and I want to thank you both for coming on the show today.
All right, thank you, Rich.
Thank you. It's been great.
You bet. Okay, folks, that's it for the Rich Report. Stay tuned for more news and information on high-performance computing.